From Tom Hartman's Daily Take Substack. Is the assault on democracy stronger than we think, and nearing permanent control? Dark money, captured courts, and media empires are quietly doing what dictators once could only dream of. Published October 28, 2025. The following is a song inspired by this article.
Stronger, stronger than we think. We were told the vote was sacred, that the truth would never sink. But the billionaires are smiling while they're pouring out the ink. They're buying up the judges, and the headlines start to shrink. Tell me now, my friend, is the assault on democracy stronger than we think? It's a quiet kind of thunder, rolling right beyond the brink. Not a war with guns or soldiers, but with money, laws, and ink. They're rewriting every promise faster than we can blink. Yeah, the assault on democracy is stronger than we think. They've been working in the shadows while we're shouting in the streets, turning freedom into slogans till it crumbles at their feet. And the line between the people and the power starts to shrink. Tell me true, my friend, is the assault on democracy stronger than we think? The flag still waves above us, but the meaning's wearing thin. When the rules are bent for tyrants and the truth won't let us in, still we march, still we're hoping, still we're closer to the brink. It's a war fought with silence, and it's closer than we think. If we don't stand together, it'll vanish in a blink. They're building while we're dreaming, brick by moneyed brick. Yeah, the assault on democracy is stronger than we think. Yeah, stronger than we think. Stronger than we think.
Trump and the billionaires and foreign fascists he's aligned with are both stronger than most think, and weaker. Today I'll deal with the stronger part. Tomorrow, the weaker. We're living in a moment when the line between democracy and dictatorship is far less clear than we'd like to believe. As a recent analysis by Stephen Levitsky, co-author of How Democracy Dies, puts it, we've already moved into the midway point along the spectrum between democracy and dictatorship where, quote, competitive authoritarianism, end quote, lives. That's the world of regimes that hold elections but use their control over the nation's system to skew the rules, restrict opposition, weaponize institutions, vandalize the truth, and destroy/ignore democratic norms. We're more than halfway down that road in just 10 short months. In the United States today, it's impossible to ignore how much of that template was laid out by Viktor Orban to the Heritage Foundation, which embedded core strategies of his authoritarian rule over Hungary into Project 2025 and is now being executed step by step by Trump and his lickspittles. And with ICE making warrantless arrests while brutalizing and now spying on protesters with Stingrays and Pegasus, Putin's FSB secret police are also providing a model for Trump. We often comfort ourselves with the idea that elections alone guarantee democracy. But the fact is that democratic institutions can be hollowed out from within even as ballots are still being cast. In Hungary, under Orban, elections exist, but the playing field is so tilted using tools like gerrymandering that the opposition never has a fair chance. The media was captured by Orban-aligned oligarchs, and both the courts and the legislature were packed to the point where they lost their autonomy. That Hungarian model is now being mirrored in America. Project 2025's blueprint doesn't call for an overt single-party takeover. Rather, it tweaks the administrative levers, centralizes power, bypasses checks and balances, staffs courts, commissions and agencies with loyalists, undermines election administration, and deploys state power to punish dissent while preserving the appearance of normalcy. Where are we on the spectrum? Much further than many pundits will admit. We now have elected and Trump-appointed officials that openly defy precedent, judicial rulings, and the rule of law. We have partisan weaponization of powerful institutions capable of punishing dissenters, ranging from the DOJ to the FBI and the IRS. We have dark money networks influencing everything from policy to courts with the blessings of a corrupt Supreme Court. And we have billionaire capture of most of our media, producing widespread disinformation and naked attacks on the very idea of truth. That is less a democracy and more a system of, quote, managed competition, end quote, where electoral outcomes are shaped in advance, not determined by a fair contest. In short, the clock is running fast toward a complete loss of democracy, the, quote, autocratic breakthrough, end quote, I've written about before. And while millions of Americans show up for protests, which matters, protests alone are nowhere near enough. And in fact, while protesters may feel emboldened and signal a national discontent, in absence of durable organization, leadership, and strategy, the protests are easily absorbed, marginalized, and rendered irrelevant by Trump's fascist forces and billionaire supporters once the streets are empty again. This is precisely the gap the Orban-Trump-Putin model exploits. At the same time, the marches are occurring, the foundation of the GOP's up-and-coming fascist autocracy are being built. The staffing of key agencies, the rewriting of rules under emergency or administrative power, the gerrymandering and court packing, the stealth takeover of local precinct and state and county election commissions. We must be careful that the dazzle of street energy doesn't blind us to the quiet but decisive work of tearing down the institutional foundations of authoritarian rule that Trump, the GOP, and the morbidly rich backers are quickly laying. If we're to stop America's slide toward fascism, we must face that stark reality. The details underlying Project 2025 echo Hungary's path with startling specificity. In that country, a small, wealthy clique around Orban orchestrated the capture of media, courts, electoral oversight bodies, and the Constitution itself, which they then rewrote, as Republicans are planning to do ours, when they get control of just a few more states. Orban changed campaign finance rules, muzzled the press, and built a client state reliant on personal loyalty rather than democratic accountability. Won a government contract? Toss some money Orban's way, or at his family, or to his closest cronies. Want a pardon? Ditto. An exception to rules, laws, or even taxes? Ditto again. In the U.S., we see an analogous thinning of institutional independence, combined with the same type of cult of personality that always characterizes autocratic strongman governments. Trump openly expressed contempt for civil service norms, his threats to independent agencies, Republicans' ideological staffing of courts, all were cloned from the Hungarian template. And while the U.S. remains superficially democratic, voting still happens. The basis of open, free, fair, competitive elections is under vigorous assault by, quote, tech bros, end quote, and other billionaires who openly disdain democracy itself. Trump announced last week that he's sending, quote, election monitors, end quote, to California and New Jersey, even though these are entirely state and not federal contests, presumably to intimidate both voters and election officials around the balloting happening in those states next week. Red states are gerrymandering to prevent Democrats from ever again controlling the House of Representatives. As I lay out in The Last American President, voter purges and ballot challenges knocked over 4 million, mostly Democratic voters, off the rolls, or prevented the ballots being cast as they were counted in 2024, giving Trump and the GOP the White House and Congress. So, what must Democrats and unaffiliated independent democracy advocates do? We have to go beyond showing up in the streets and writing outraged posts on social media, although both do help. Movements that fail to coalesce around leaders and build institutions typically die in the glare of their own moral light. We need leadership and institutions capable of organizing, strategizing, and executing on multiple fronts: precincts, courts, local elections, media ecosystems, and state regulatory agencies. Protest without public faces and follow-through is like fireworks: beautiful, brief, and gone before the smoke clears. Our challenge is both structural and strategic, and lacking hundreds of morbidly rich billionaires funding us like Trump has, we're already way behind. It's not enough to oppose. We must propose, build, and defend. Like Bernie Sanders is constantly pointing out, we must fight for reforms that fortify democracy, enforce campaign finance transparency, build public horror of concentrated media and money power, demand independent courts, safeguard election administration from partisan capture, and work to guarantee that our vote is harder to take away than our guns. We must train a generation of leaders who don't just show up for the, quote, march, end quote, but stay for the precinct meeting, the town hall, the election board challenge. We must invest in institutions, particularly the DNC, that outlast ephemeral flare-ups of outrage and build resilient and genuinely progressive democratic infrastructure. This is, after all, a progressive populist movement, as the Mamdani campaign and the crowds showing up for Bernie and AOC's anti-oligarchy tour shows. We just have to join it fully and ride its power. Here's the plain truth. Any movement that wants democracy to prevail must realize that its job is just beginning when the banners are raised and the cameras roll. The billionaire-funded right-wing movement bent on authoritarianism has its candidates, its loyalists, its media echo chamber, and its policy train. This movement demands no less. We can no longer simply debate about policy or personality. We're in a contest of governance models, of democratic versus authoritarianism futures. James Carville recently told Jen Psaki that, quote, "You aren't scared enough yet," end quote. Chuck Schumer, Hakeem Jeffries, and the entire Democratic Party need to hear that message and act now, along with the rest of us. The longer we leave the field uncontested, the more power we hand to those with a blueprint. The window is narrowing, and the Hungarian-Russian lesson is clear. When the opposition wins the street but not the state, democracy loses. All of us who believe in a republic of citizens, not subjects, must work to build not just rallies but infrastructure, not just energy but strategy, not just slogans but institutions. Join progressive organizations and get inside the Democratic Party. Bring energy, enthusiasm, and passion. If you're inclined and capable, run for office yourself. The hour is urgent. The stakes are existential. Tag, we're it.